After centuries of relentless war against the mechanized Vorthian Empire, their victory felt like a dream too good to be true. Scifi Prime, their homeworld, was alive with celebration. Bioluminescent fireworks painted the night sky in swirls of green and violet, reflecting off crystalline spires that reached toward the stars. Streets were packed with jubilant crowds, dancing, singing, and laughing as if they'd never known pain or loss. It was a moment etched into history, a day when freedom finally triumphed over tyranny. But not everyone shared the joy. Elder Calver stood atop his obsidian throne, gazing out at the festivities below through hooded eyes. His tall, slender frame was draped in ceremonial robes adorned with glowing runes, symbols of wisdom earned through decades of leadership. Yet, despite the cheers echoing around him, his expression remained unreadable, almost cold. While others reveled in the sweet taste of victory, Calver couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. Calver called Advisor Lurin, approaching cautiously. Her voice carried warmth, but her steps betrayed hesitation. "You should join us. This is a time for celebration, not brooding." Calver didn't turn to face her. Instead, he gestured vaguely toward the crowd below. "Do you see them? So eager to forget what we've endured, as though victory erases the cost." Lyran sighed softly. She knew better than to argue with him when he got like this. Calver had always been different from the other leaders, more cautious, more calculating. Some said it was paranoia. Others called it foresight. Either way, his instincts had kept the Zenari alive during their darkest days. Still, even she struggled to understand why he seemed so troubled now. "The Vorthians are gone," Lurin reminded him gently. "We destroyed their core network. Without it, their machines can no longer function. There's nothing left to fear." For a long moment, Calver said nothing. Then, slowly, he turned to meet her gaze. His dark eyes shimmered faintly, catching the light from nearby lanterns. "And yet," he began, his voice low and deliberate, "I feel as though we've merely exchanged one threat for another." Before Lurin could respond, a young messenger hurried into the chamber, breathless and wide-eyed. "Elder Calver," the boy gasped, bowing deeply. "Forgive the interruption, but there's something you need to see." Calver raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "It's the scouts. They've detected unusual signals coming from deep space. Something unfamiliar, something new." A heavy silence fell over the room. Lurin glanced between Calver and the messenger, her brow furrowed. "Unfamiliar? What do you mean?" The messenger swallowed nervously. "They're calling them humans." Calver's jaw tightened. For a fleeting moment, his mask of composure slipped, revealing the storm brewing beneath. Humans. The word itself sounded foreign, almost alien. He hadn't expected this. Not now, not after everything they'd been through. "Show me," Calver ordered sharply, stepping down from his throne. As he followed the messenger out of the chamber, Lurin lingered behind, watching him go. She wanted to believe this was just another false alarm, a remnant of Calver's lingering fears. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the chill creeping up her spine. Something was coming. The subterranean chamber was dimly lit, its walls pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins that mimicked the rhythm of a heartbeat. The air felt heavy, charged with tension as Elder Calver paced back and forth before his council. Around him, holographic projections hovered in midair, strange symbols, fragmented images, and jagged energy signatures flickered like ghostly apparitions. These were the signals intercepted by Zenari scouts deep in the void of space, and they all pointed to one unsettling truth. Something, or someone, was heading toward Scifi Prime. Calver stopped abruptly and turned to face his advisors. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Tell me again what we know." Advisor Lurin stepped forward, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. The signals originated from beyond the veil. She began, referring to the dense nebula that marked the edge of Zenari territory. "Our long-range probes detected them 3 cycles ago. At first, we thought they might be remnants of Vorthian activity, But she hesitated, glancing at the holograms. These are unlike anything we've encountered before. Another advisor, Commander Jarek, chimed in. His tone carried a mix of curiosity and unease. They're using primitive communication methods, radio waves, and simple binary codes. But their ships, their technology seems advanced, organic yet mechanical. It doesn't fit any known species profile. Calver's eyes narrowed. And you believe these beings are intelligent? Jarek nodded. Yes, we've identified patterns in their transmissions. They appear deliberate, not random noise. Some even resemble mathematical sequences, a universal language. Lurin leaned closer to one of the holograms, pointing to an image of a humanoid figure captured by a probe camera. This is what worries me most, she said softly. Look at this silhouette. Bipedal, upright posture, limbs designed for tool use. If these creatures are indeed sentient, then we must consider why they're approaching us. A murmur rippled through the council. Some exchanged nervous glances, while others leaned in eagerly, intrigued by the implications. But Calver remained silent, his expression unreadable. He studied the hologram intently, tracing the outline of the figure with his gaze. There was something about its shape, something familiar yet alien, that unsettled him deeply. They could be explorers, suggested Advisor Taven, his voice tinged with hope. Survivors from another civilization, seeking refuge. Perhaps they mean no harm. Or perhaps they do, Calver countered sharply. His words silenced the room instantly. We cannot afford naivety now. Not after everything we've endured. Remember the Vorthians. They too came promising coexistence, before enslaving half our population. Taven opened his mouth to argue but thought better of it. Instead, he looked down, frowning. Calver exhaled slowly, running a hand over his smooth, scaled scalp. For now, we keep this discovery hidden from the public. Panic will only weaken us further. In the meantime, I want every available scout dispatched to gather more information. Track their movements, analyze their intentions, but remain undetected. Understood. The council nodded in unison, though doubt lingered in their eyes. As they filed out of the chamber, Lirin lingered behind, watching Calver carefully. You truly think they're a threat? She asked quietly. Calver didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at the hologram once more, his reflection shimmering faintly on its surface. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, but history has taught me one thing. When whispers come from the stars, they rarely bring peace. With that, he dismissed her, leaving the chamber bathed in eerie silence. Outside, the celebrations continued, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath their feet. The lone human scout ship drifted silently through the void, its metallic hull gleaming faintly under the pale light of Scifi Prime's distant sun. To the untrained eye, it might have seemed harmless, a small vessel adrift in the vastness of space. But to the Zenari defense grid, it was an anomaly, a potential threat. Calver had given strict orders. Monitor all unidentified ships approaching their territory, but avoid engagement unless absolutely necessary. Yet when the scout ship veered dangerously close to Scifi Prime's outer moon, a sacred site for the Zenari, patrol drones interpreted the maneuver as hostile intent. Without waiting for further instructions, they opened fire. Bright beams of energy lanced through the darkness, striking the scout ship with devastating precision. Alarms blared inside the tiny craft as its engines sputtered and died, leaving it adrift and crippled. For a moment, silence reigned in the command center on Scifi Prime. Then chaos erupted. What just happened? Commander Jarek barked, his voice sharp with disbelief. He stared at the surveillance feed showing the damaged human ship spinning helplessly against the backdrop of stars. Who authorized this attack? I didn't. Calver replied curtly, striding into the room with Lurin close behind him. His expression was grim as he surveyed the situation unfolding before them. But it's done now. What's the status of the target? Unknown, one of the operators responded nervously. It's still transmitting signals. Wait, they're broadcasting something. A crackling voice filled the room, distorted yet unmistakably humanoid. Do not fire. Repeat, we are not enemies. We come in peace. The word sent a ripple of shock through the command center. Peace. The notion felt almost alien to the Zenari, who had spent centuries fighting for survival. Calver raised a hand, signaling for silence. Play it again, he ordered. As the message repeated, Lurin leaned closer to the console, her eyes wide with fascination. They're speaking our universal translation protocols, she murmured. How is that possible? It doesn't matter how, Calver snapped. What matters is what we do next. Debate broke out among the council members. Some argued that the humans posed no immediate danger and should be allowed to explain themselves. Others insisted the attack proved their intentions were unclear at best and potentially hostile at worst. Calver listened impassively, weighing both sides while studying the damaged chip on the screen. Finally, he made his decision. Send a recovery team, he said firmly. Bring them here, but keep them contained. If they truly mean no harm, then we'll negotiate. But if they lie, he let the sentence hang unfinished, his tone leaving no room for argument. Hours later, the human crew was brought before the council chamber, escorted by heavily armed guards. There were 3 of them, 2 men and a woman, all clad in sleek black uniforms bearing strange insignias. Their leader, a tall man with piercing blue eyes, stepped forward cautiously, raising his hands in a gesture of goodwill. My name is Lieutenant Marcus Hale, he began, his voice steady despite the obvious tension in the room. We represent humanity, a species seeking refuge after losing our home world. We didn't mean to intrude on your territory. Please, believe us, we are not your enemy. His words hung in the air, met with a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. Calver studied him carefully, searching for any sign of deception. Beside him, Lurin whispered urgently, "This changes everything." But Calver wasn't so sure. As he stared into Lieutenant Hale's earnest gaze, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was only the beginning of something far more complicated and dangerous. Outside, the celebrations continued, oblivious to the fact that first contact had already gone horribly wrong. The chamber was tense, the air thick with suspicion, as Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood before the Zenari Council. His calm demeanor and measured words seemed designed to reassure. But Elder Calver wasn't easily swayed. He leaned forward slightly in his obsidian throne, studying the human leader like a predator sizing up its prey. Refugees, Calver repeated slowly, letting the word linger in the silence. You say you come seeking refuge, yet your ship is armed. Explain that. Hale hesitated for just a fraction of a second, enough for Calver to notice. We carry weapons for self-defense, he replied evenly. Our journey through space has been perilous. We've encountered hostile species and had no choice but to protect ourselves. Calver's eyes narrowed. And now you seek safety on our world. Why here? How did you even find us? Before Hale could answer, Advisor Lurin stepped forward, her tone softer but probing. Your people must have endured great suffering to leave your home. Tell us more about Earth. What happened there? This time, it was the woman accompanying Hale who spoke. Her voice carried a mixture of sorrow and resolve. My name is Dr. Elena Cruz, she said, stepping beside Hale. Earth faced ecological collapse, rising seas, poisoned air, and dwindling resources. Wars erupted over what little remained. Billions died. Those of us who survived built ships to escape, hoping to find new worlds where humanity could rebuild. Her story stirred murmurs among the council members. Some looked sympathetic, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Calver remained unmoved, his gaze fixed on the humans. You speak of survival, he said finally, but survival requires resources. What do you plan to do once you settle? Will you share this burden with us, or take what you need by force? Hale raised his hands placatingly. We don't want conflict. All we ask is a chance, a barren land or an uninhabited region where we can begin anew. We bring knowledge, technology, and skills that could benefit both our peoples. At this, Commander Jarek perked up, intrigued. Technology. What kind? Dr. Cruz hesitated briefly before answering. Terraforming equipment. Tools capable of transforming barren landscapes into fertile ground. With them, we can create habitable environments anywhere. The revelation sparked excitement among some council members, but Calver's expression darkened. Terraforming meant power, the ability to reshape entire ecosystems. If these humans truly possessed such advanced tools, their arrival could disrupt the delicate balance of Scifi Prime's environment. Worse still, they might use this technology not just to survive, but to dominate. We'll consider your request, Calver said curtly, signaling the end of the discussion. As guards escorted the humans out of the chamber, he turned to his advisors. Something feels off. Their story sounds too convenient. Refugees fleeing destruction. Advanced terraforming tech. Coincidence or calculation? Lyron frowned. You think they're lying? I think we know very little about them. And they seem eager to gain our trust. Too eager. That night, Calver ordered a covert operation. Using encrypted channels, he tasked a team of spies to infiltrate the human fleet orbiting Scifi Prime. What they discovered chilled him to the core. Hidden compartments aboard their ships contained dormant weapon systems far more sophisticated than anything the Zenari currently possessed. Logs revealed plans detailing potential colonization sites, including maps of Zenari cities labeled as strategic assets. When the spies returned with evidence, Calver stared at the data. His suspicions confirmed. The humans weren't mere refugees. They were opportunists, and if allowed unchecked access to Scifi Prime, they would stop at nothing to claim it for themselves. Yet convincing the rest of the council wouldn't be easy. Many had already warmed to the idea of alliance, seduced by promises of shared prosperity. Calver clenched his fists, realizing the truth. First contact hadn't gone wrong. It had only revealed humanity's true nature. Now, the question was whether the Zenari could act before it was too late. The revelation of humanity's hidden agenda tore through the Zenari leadership like a storm, splintering alliances and igniting fierce debates. Elder Calver convened an emergency council meeting, presenting the damning evidence uncovered by his spies. Maps of Zenari cities, dormant weapon systems, and logs detailing plans for colonization. The chamber buzzed with tension as advisors argued over what to do next. This proves nothing, shouted Advisor Taven, slamming his fist on the table. His youthful face flushed with anger as he glared at Calver. You're twisting facts to suit your paranoia. These humans are desperate survivors, not conquerors. Calver's voice remained cold and steady. Desperation breeds recklessness. If we allow them free rein, they'll exploit our resources and destabilize our world. We cannot afford to gamble with Scifi Prime's future. Commander Jarek chimed in, his tone measured but firm. With respect, Elder, there's merit to both sides. Yes, their actions raise concerns, but so does alienating potential allies. After centuries of war, we're vulnerable. An alliance could strengthen us. Lyron sat quietly, watching the exchange unfold. She understood Calver's fears, but also saw the logic in Jarek's argument. Humanity's technology could be invaluable, especially terraforming tools that might revitalize barren regions of their planet. Yet the risks were undeniable. Could they trust these newcomers, or would welcoming them invite disaster? Outside the council chamber, public opinion mirrored the divide within the leadership. News of the humans' arrival had spread despite efforts to keep it contained. Some Zenari viewed them as saviors, beings who could bring innovation and hope after years of suffering. Others saw them as invaders, another threat to add to the long list of enemies they'd fought off. Protests erupted in the streets, with crowds clashing over whether to embrace or expel the humans. Captain Cyril, a young warrior known for her bravery during the Vorthian Wars, emerged as a vocal supporter of the humans. Her charisma and idealism resonated with many, particularly the younger generation eager for change. She addressed throngs of supporters outside the capital city, her voice ringing out passionately. "The humans have suffered just as we have," she declared, standing atop a crystalline platform. "They've lost their home, their families, everything. How can we turn them away when they seek only peace and survival? To reject them is to abandon the very values we claim to uphold." Her words stirred cheers from the crowd, but not everyone agreed. Traditionalists rallied behind Calver, accusing Cyril of naivety. Their leader, Elder Vren, spoke at a rival gathering, his deep voice carrying authority. "We cannot let sympathy blind us to reality," Vren warned, addressing a sea of solemn faces. "History has shown us time and again that trust given too freely leads to betrayal. Look at the Vorthians. They promised coexistence before enslaving us. Do we wish to repeat those mistakes?" As divisions deepened, violence began to simmer beneath the surface. Riots broke out near the human delegation's temporary quarters, forcing guards to intervene. Shouts of "Go back to your stars" clashed with cries of "Give them a chance." Rocks flew, and bioluminescent lanterns shattered on the ground, casting fractured light across the chaos. Amidst the turmoil, Commander Hale and his crew watched uneasily from inside their quarters. They hadn't anticipated such hostility or such fervent support. Dr. Cruz turned to Hale, her expression grim. "They're tearing themselves apart because of us," she murmured. "What if this was a mistake? Coming here?" Hale shook his head firmly. "No, we didn't come all this way to give up now. Whatever happens, we need to stay united and prove we're worth trusting." But unity was becoming harder to maintain, not just among the Zenari, but within the human ranks as well. Whispers of doubt crept into their conversations. Were they truly refugees seeking refuge, or opportunists exploiting weakness? Back in the council chamber, Calver stared at the holographic map of Scifi Prime, his mind racing. Time was running out. He needed a decision, one that would either save his people or doom them. And yet, every choice carried its own peril. Calver's spies moved like shadows through the corridors of the human fleet, their bioorganic suits blending seamlessly with the metallic walls. The mission was risky. Any misstep could mean discovery and retaliation, but Calver had insisted. If humanity harbored secrets, he needed to know them before it was too late. What they found chilled even the most hardened operatives. Hidden compartments within the human ships housed not only dormant weapons systems, but also laboratories filled with strange devices and vials of unknown substances. One chamber contained rows of cryogenic pods, each holding humanoid figures suspended in stasis. Were these humans, or something else entirely? The most damning evidence came from encrypted data logs recovered from a central terminal. The files revealed detailed plans for terraforming, not just barren regions, as Dr. Cruz had claimed, but entire ecosystems. Maps of Scifi Prime were annotated with notes labeling key areas as high-priority targets. Beneath one map, a single phrase stood out: "Resource extraction must precede settlement." When the spies returned to Scifi Prime, they delivered their findings directly to Calver in a secure underground bunker. As holographic projections displayed images of the hidden weapons, labs, and maps, Calver's expression grew darker with each revelation. "They weren't planning to coexist," he muttered, his voice low and sharp. "They were planning to conquer." Lyrin stared at the holograms, her hands trembling slightly. This changes everything. If the Council sees this, there will be no question about their true intentions." Calver nodded grimly. "But revealing this now would ignite panic, and possibly war. We need to act carefully, quietly." Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship, tensions simmered among Commander Hale's crew. Not everyone agreed with his decision to pursue diplomacy with the Zenari. Lieutenant Mara Voss, a pragmatic officer known for her tactical mind, confronted Hale in the ship's command center. "You're making a mistake, Marcus," she said bluntly, her arms crossed over her chest. "These aliens don't trust us, and frankly, I don't blame them. Every day we waste trying to win them over is another day we risk losing control of the situation." Hale sighed, rubbing his temples. "And what do you suggest? Attack them? Start a war when we're outnumbered and outgunned?" "No," Voss replied sharply. "But we can't keep pretending they'll simply hand over their planet because we asked nicely. Look at their history. They've fought wars before. They won't back down without a fight. We need leverage." Before Hale could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. A message flashed across the main screen. Intrusion detected. Someone, or something, had breached their security protocols. "Damn it," Hale cursed under his breath. He turned to Voss. "Find out who did this, and how much they took." Back on Scifi Prime, Calver called a secret meeting with his inner circle. Using the stolen data, he outlined humanity's shadowy agenda, emphasizing the danger posed by their advanced technology and apparent willingness to exploit resources indiscriminately. "This isn't just about survival," Calver concluded. "It's about domination. They view us as obstacles to their goals. If we don't stop them now, they'll destroy us." Commander Jarek frowned. "Even if you're right, Elder, we can't confront them openly. Their weapons are far superior to ours." Calver's lips curled into a faint, grim smile. "Who said anything about confronting them openly?" He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "We strike where they least expect it. Their hubris. Let them think we still trust them while we prepare our defenses. When the time comes, we'll reveal their lies to the populace and crush them before they realize what's happening." The plan was risky, but Calver saw no other option. Humanity had brought secrets to their doorstep, and those secrets would become their undoing. Unbeknownst to both sides, however, the clock was ticking faster than anyone realized. Neither the Zenari nor the humans fully understood the true cost of the choices they were about to make. And somewhere deep in space, ancient forces stirred, awakened by the growing conflict between two species destined to collide. The confrontation between Calver and Commander Hale came sooner than either had anticipated. Armed with the stolen data, Calver summoned the human delegation to an emergency meeting in the Grand Council chamber. The room buzzed with tension as both sides faced off, Hale standing tall but visibly uneasy, while Calver's piercing gaze never wavered. "You lied to us," Calver began, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Holographic projections of the hidden weapons systems, cryogenic pods, and annotated maps flickered into view around him. "You spoke of peace, yet your ships are armed. You promised coexistence, yet your plans reveal conquest." Hale's jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. "Those files are taken out of context," he countered firmly. "Yes, we have weapons. They are for defense. Yes, we've mapped your planet, but only to understand where we might settle without causing harm. Everything you see here is precautionary, not malicious." "Precautionary," Calver snapped, his tone dripping with disdain. "Do you take us for fools? Your own logs speak of resource extraction and high-priority targets. Tell me, Commander, how does stripping our planet bear a line with peaceful intentions?" Dr. Kruz stepped forward, her voice calm but urgent. "We needed contingency plans. Space is unpredictable, dangerous. But that doesn't mean we intended to act on them. We came here seeking refuge, not conflict." Calver's expression remained unreadable, but Liren noticed the faint tremor in his hands, a sign of suppressed fury. She leaned closer to him, whispering softly, "Elder, if we escalate this now, it could spiral out of control." Ignoring her, Calver addressed the humans once more. "Your actions have betrayed your words. From this moment on, you are no longer welcome here. Remove your fleet from our territory, or face the consequences." Hale's eyes narrowed, his patience wearing thin. "You're making a grave mistake. If you force us away, you'll only ensure our survival becomes harder. and desperation breeds hostility. Is that what you want? Before Calver could respond, chaos erupted outside. News of the council meeting had leaked, and the streets were ablaze with protests. Pro-human factions clashed violently with those loyal to Calver, hurling insults and debris at one another. Bioluminescent fires lit up the night sky as guards struggled to restore order. Inside the chamber, tempers flared further. Advisor Taven slammed his fist on the table. This is madness. By alienating them, you're ensuring war. And by trusting them, you're inviting betrayal. Calver shot back, his voice rising. As arguments raged, Hale exchanged a glance with Dr. Cruz. Both understood the gravity of the situation. They had lost the trust of the Zenari leadership. Without it, diplomacy was dead. We'll leave, Hale said finally, his tone icy. But know this, if you push us too far, you'll regret it. Humanity has endured far worse than rejection. With that, the humans turned and exited the chamber, their footsteps echoing ominously in the tense silence left behind. Later that evening, Calver stood alone on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Fires still burned below, casting flickering shadows across the crystalline spires. Liren joined him, her face etched with worry. You've made your choice, she said quietly, but I fear it may cost us dearly. Calver didn't reply immediately. Instead, he stared at the horizon, where the first hints of dawn were beginning to break. Sometimes, he murmured, the hardest choices are the ones that save us. Unbeknownst to either of them, Commander Hale was already enacting his next move. Back aboard the flagship, he gathered his senior officers. They've given us no choice, Hale declared grimly. If they won't share their world willingly, we'll have to take what we need. Prepare the fleet. We strike at dawn. As the sun rose over Scifi Prime, two civilizations braced for the inevitable collision. What began as fragile hope had crumbled into ashes, leaving only distrust and the promise of bloodshed. The first rays of dawn illuminated Scifi Prime's skies, but there was no beauty in the scene unfolding above. The humans had acted swiftly, launching a preemptive strike against Zenari defenses. Sleek metallic starfighters streaked through the atmosphere, their engines roaring like thunder as they unleashed barrages of energy blasts. In response, Zenari bioorganic vessels surged upward from hidden hangars, their crystalline surfaces shimmering with bioluminescent light. The battle began with chaotic ferocity. Human fighters darted and weaved with precision engineering, targeting vital points on the Zenari ships. Their weapons were devastating, concentrated beams of plasma capable of slicing through even the toughest organic armor. But the Zenari weren't defenseless. Their ships pulsed with life, regenerating damaged sections almost instantly thanks to their adaptive organic design. Tentacle-like protrusions lashed out at human craft, attempting to ensnare them mid-flight. Calver watched the conflict unfold from a secure command center beneath the capital city. Holographic displays showed real-time updates of the skirmishes raging above. His hands gripped the edge of the console tightly, knuckles white with tension. They're relentless, Commander Jarek muttered beside him, his eyes scanning the tactical map. Their formations are too coordinated. It's like they've studied our tactics. That's because they have, Calver replied grimly. They've been observing us since they arrived. Every move we make, they anticipate. Despite being outnumbered, the humans pressed their advantage relentlessly. Lieutenant Maravos led one squadron with ruthless efficiency, her ship weaving through Zenari fire with calculated ease. She targeted key communication hubs orbiting the planet, severing vital links between ground forces and aerial units. But the Zenari fought back with equal determination. Captain Cyril commanded a fleet of smaller bioorganic interceptors, using their agility to outmaneuver the slower human fighters. Her voice crackled over the comms as she rallied her troops. Stay close. Focus on disabling their engines, not destruction. If we can cripple them, they'll fall. Her strategy worked temporarily. Several human ships spiraled out of control, crashing into the upper atmosphere in fiery plumes. Cheers erupted among the Zenari ranks, but the victory was short-lived. Reinforcements poured in from the human flagship, overwhelming Cyril's squadron. On the ground, panic spread as civilians fled the capital city. Explosions rocked nearby installations, sending shockwaves rippling across the landscape. Fires raged unchecked, consuming entire districts. The once celebratory streets now lay in ruins, littered with debris and despair. Lirin stood beside Calver, her expression haunted. This isn't just about winning anymore. It's about survival. If we lose the skies, we lose everything. Calver nodded grimly. He turned to Jarek. Prepare the orbital cannons. We'll target their flagship directly. Without it, their fleet will falter. Jarek hesitated. Elder, those cannons haven't been tested since the Vorthian War. If something goes wrong, we don't have time for hesitation. Calver snapped. Do it. Above, the tide began to shift. Dr. Cruz, aboard the flagship, coordinated counterattacks with cold efficiency. Recognizing the threat posed by the orbital cannons, she ordered a concentrated assault on the defense grid. Human bombers dove toward the surface, unleashing payloads that shattered the protective shields surrounding the cannons. As smoke billowed into the sky, both sides suffered heavy losses. Ships exploded in bursts of light, scattering debris across the battlefield. Pilots screamed over open channels as their vessels succumbed to enemy fire. Neither side could claim dominance. The fight was a brutal stalemate. Back in the command center, Calver clenched his fists as another wave of human fighters reached the outer perimeter. They were relentless, driven by desperation. He realized then that this wasn't just a battle for territory. It was a fight for existence, and neither species would yield until the other was broken. The cost of survival grew heavier with each passing moment. The battle raged on, consuming ships, lives, and hope. The skies above Excytherus Prime burned with relentless fury as both sides pushed themselves to the brink of exhaustion. Each explosion lit up the horizon like a dying star, casting flickering shadows over the devastated landscape below. For every human fighter shot down, 2 Zenari interceptors were lost. For every tactical advantage gained, another was swiftly countered. It was clear now. Neither side could win without paying an unimaginable price. In the command center, Calver stared at the holographic displays, his mind racing. The orbital cannons had failed. The humans had seen them coming and neutralized them before they could fire. His advisors argued heatedly around him, their voices blending into a cacophony of despair. We're losing ground, Commander Jarek shouted, pointing to the rapidly shrinking defensive perimeter. If we don't retreat soon, they'll breach the capital. No, Calver growled, slamming his fist onto the console. Retreating is surrender, and I will not let this world fall. Lirin stepped closer, her voice trembling but resolute. Then what do you propose, Elder? We can't keep fighting like this. We're being torn apart. Calver turned to face her, his eyes dark with resolve. There's one option left. Ancient planetary defenses, weapons buried deep beneath the surface since the Vorthian Wars. If activated, they could devastate the human fleet. Advisor Taven gasped. You can't be serious. Those systems haven't been used in centuries. Activating them would destroy entire regions of our own planet. They were designed for extinction-level threats. I am aware of the cost, Calver said coldly, his voice cutting through the room like ice. But if it means saving Excytherus Prime from occupation, then so be it. The council erupted into chaos. Some supported Calver's plan, seeing no other way forward. Others vehemently opposed it, arguing that such destruction would make them no better than the humans. Lirin watched silently, tears glistening in her eyes, as she realized the weight of the decision before them. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship, Commander Hale faced a similar dilemma. With their fleet stretched thin and casualties mounting, he knew continuing the assault risked total annihilation. Lieutenant Voss approached him, her expression grim. Sir, we need to consider drastic measures, she said quietly. Half our fleet is already crippled. If we stay any longer, we won't have enough ships to escape." Hale clenched his jaw. He glanced at Dr. Cruz, who stood nearby, her face pale with exhaustion. "What are you suggesting?" Voss hesitated, then spoke firmly. "We overload the reactors on half our remaining ships and ram them into the Zenari defenses. It'll create enough chaos to break through their lines and buy time for the rest of us to regroup." Cruz recoiled in horror. "That's suicide. Hundreds of lives, gone in seconds." "It's sacrifice," Voss corrected sharply. "Or do you want all of us to die here?" Hale closed his eyes, the weight of leadership crushing him. Finally, he nodded. "Do it, but ensure everyone on board knows what's coming, and give them the choice to leave." As both sides prepared their final gambits, the stakes reached unbearable heights. On Scifi Prime, civilians fled inland, trying to escape the impending devastation. Elders and children huddled together in underground shelters, praying for survival. Above, pilots kissed their helmets goodbye, knowing their next mission might be their last. When Calver gave the order to activate the ancient defenses, the ground trembled violently. Massive turrets emerged from hidden bunkers, glowing ominously as they powered up. Simultaneously, the human fleet initiated its desperate maneuver. Ships overloaded with energy surged toward the Zenari lines, exploding in blinding flashes of light. The resulting collision between these two acts of self-destruction shook the planet to its core. Skies burned brighter than ever before, and shockwaves flattened entire cities. Both species paid dearly for their convictions, their sacrifices carving scars into history. And yet, amid the ashes and ruin, a fragile opportunity emerged for peace, or perhaps something far darker. The dust had barely settled when the survivors began to emerge from the wreckage. Scifi Prime was scared beyond recognition. Entire regions lay in ruins, reduced to smoldering craters by the cataclysmic clash between Zenari defenses and human desperation. Fires still burned across the landscape, casting an eerie orange glow over what was once a thriving civilization. The air smelled of ash and ozone, heavy with the weight of loss. In the aftermath, both sides found themselves too battered to continue fighting. Calver stood amidst the remnants of his council chamber, now little more than a crumbling shell. His robes were torn, his body weary, but his resolve remained unshaken. Around him, advisors whispered grimly about the cost of victory, or defeat, depending on how one looked at it. Thousands of lives had been lost, cities destroyed, yet somehow they had survived. Commander Hale, bloodied but alive, staggered through the corridors of the flagship's damaged interior. Half the fleet was gone, sacrificed in a desperate bid to break through Zenari lines. Those who remained clung to hope, or perhaps just stubbornness. Dr. Cruz limped beside him, her voice hoarse as she spoke. "We've nothing left," she murmured. "No weapons, no resources, if they come for us now." She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "They won't," Hale replied firmly, though doubt flickered in his eyes. "They're as broken as we are. This ends here." A tentative ceasefire was brokered under the shadow of mutual devastation. Calver agreed to meet Commander Hale on neutral ground, a barren stretch of land near the equator untouched by the war. Both leaders arrived flanked by their most trusted aides, faces etched with exhaustion and mistrust. "You've made your point," Calver said coldly, his gaze piercing. "You're not welcome here, but killing you serves no purpose. Leave us in peace, and we'll let you live." Hale shook his head. "We have nowhere else to go. Earth is dead. Our other colonies failed. Without shelter, humanity dies. Surely even you can see that." For a long moment, Calver didn't respond. Then, slowly, he exhaled. "Fine. You may stay, but only under strict conditions. Settle far from our cities, on the barren continent in the southern hemisphere. No advanced technology without oversight. And if you step out of line..." He let the threat hang unfinished. Hale hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Agreed. As the terms were finalized, whispers of unease spread among both populations. The Zenari feared another betrayal, while many humans resented being forced into exile. Yet there was also quiet relief, a fragile understanding that coexistence, however uneasy, was preferable to annihilation. Over time, reconstruction efforts began. Zenari engineers worked alongside human technicians, sharing knowledge cautiously. Tensions flared occasionally, but violence was rare. Younger generations grew up knowing only this strange alliance, their parents' hatred softened by necessity. Calver watched it all from afar, his heart heavy with regret. Sacrifices had been made, not just in lives, but in trust. He often wondered if peace could truly endure or if history would repeat itself. One evening, as he stood overlooking the rebuilt capital city, Lurin joined him. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked softly. Calver stared at the horizon, where the sun dipped below jagged spires. "I don't know," he admitted. "But survival isn't always about doing the right thing. Sometimes it's simply about enduring." And so, beneath twin moons, two species forged an uneasy future together. Hope mingled with fear, progress with caution. The scars of war would linger forever, but so too would the promise of renewal. The stars above seemed quieter now, watching silently as Scifi Prime took its first steps toward uncertain harmony.